And now we're shifting to some big earnings news that's just breaking from some pretty big tech names. Doug Flynn joins us, certified financial planner, co-founder, Flynn Capital Management. I've been looking here at headlines from Amazon, from Meta, still waiting on Apple to report its earnings. They all come out after the bell, and we're coming up on 4:30 Eastern time. Let me start with Amazon. What I saw, Amazon topped expectations. The stock went up a little bit. We're also going to look, and I want to see what you think of this story, whether Amazon, who's in the Journal today, should be held responsible for everything it ships to us, even if it comes from a third party. Take that on after the earnings. What did you make of anything stand out in the earnings?
Yeah, the earnings were, the revenue was definitely higher than expected, and that's going to give it a little pop. And a lot of it is coming. We were looking into the Amazon Web Services, which is their cloud, and that's a really important developing part of their business. And that came in right as expected. But big numbers for a revenue increase, so that should do a good thing for the stock tomorrow.
Yeah, I see it's up a little tonight in the after hours, so we'll see where it goes from there. There's the sales number. That's a big number. All right, what about this idea that they could be held, liable or responsible, I guess I should say, for everything they sell, even if it doesn't come from them? What do you make of that, if that happens?
I mean, there's probably some limited liability that they should have. I don't know that they have full responsibility if they're using these third parties, but people, the benefit is that you're expecting it to come, in 2 hours after I deliver it, or at least tomorrow. And so for that, they have to do certain things, and not every supplier to them can do that. So I think they're going to figure out exactly how to share responsibility in some way. I don't know that they should share full responsibility unless it's their own product that they're putting out, or supply that they're putting out. But people want to have their stuff right away, and if there's issues, then I think there's some shared responsibility in that, depending on whose fault it is.
Consumer Product Safety Commission's looking at it. Whether they classify them as a distributor could be a big deal, or we'll see. I want to talk about Meta as well, of course, the company behind Facebook and Instagram and much more. The headline there was dividend. First time ever a dividend from Meta has just been announced. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that is big news, by the way. As companies mature from these huge growth companies into more of like a core company, which has some growth and some income, dividend payments are great. People love them. They can reinvest them. It's a very small dividend, but it's a start. That's how companies begin. It shows it has a lot of extra money, and they start to return some of that cash to the shareholders. They're also announcing a big buyback, and what that means to people is when a company buys its own stock back, that means there's less out there in the float, in what they call it, and that tends to drive the price up. And they had huge numbers on revenue and earnings. So check for Meta here, and a big pop after hours as a result of all that.
Not a great day on Congress for Mark Zuckerberg, or a great week. He was hammered in Congress, but these are good numbers for his business, and the dividend part of it is really interesting. Speaking of Congress, we're going to talk in a few minutes about, they never pass anything, especially that's bipartisan, but they got a tax bill done, which was kind of interesting. It didn't have what they call the SALT deduction, which is very important to people who live in our area in New York, right? The state and local taxes. And now there's a bill being worked on that might, incorporate that. Comes out of Mike Lawler, who's from New York, he's a Republican. Would increase the deduction from $10,000 to $20,000 for 2023 for married couples filing jointly whose taxable income's less than $500,000. But anyway, talk about the importance of this. We've talked about, I don't know how many years ago it was, but this has come up a number of times, and now I guess there's an expiration from the Trump tax bill.
That's right, and we have been talking about that. That ends at the end of 25. So if nobody does anything, then we wake up in 2026 with two things. You get all your state and local tax, the SALT deductions back, but then you get back those higher tax brackets that go along with it. This is to try to say, well, there was a marriage penalty. They applied a $10,000 number to singles as well as married couples. And usually it's 10 for singles and 20 for married. So maybe that should have been. But at the end of the day, some quick math that people seem to misunderstand deductions versus tax savings is this. In 2017, before the tax breaks, the $200,000 combined earner was in a 28% tax bracket. Now it's a 22% tax bracket. So quick math on 200 grand, 6% saved you $12,000 in taxes. A $10,000 tax deduction is a $2,200 tax saving. So you're going to give me $2,200, but then I might end up paying $12,000 more in actual taxes. We have to be really careful with the math, and everybody should look at it themselves. Even though a lot of people in this area lost their state and local tax deductions, they might have more than made up for it in the lower tax brackets that we're all paying, because they're significant. So you need to look at that. And so I don't know where they're also going to pay for it. Where is this money coming from to it could be tens of billions of dollars, I'm sure, when you add it up.
Right. That's what they're saying in other parts of the country. So don't talk to your local congressman about this, Doug. He might not be happy. You're making the argument for everybody else. No, I'm kidding. That's a very interesting and a good explanation of it. We're going to talk more about the overall bill coming up. Thank you, Doug. Doug Flynn. So we'll get